Episode 569, Using Games to Teach and Having Breakthroughs in Reading and Writing.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
So today we're talking with one of my dear friends, Dr. Lee Graham. I've done some projects with her in the past with my students, and she collaborates in so many different ways. I used to be in Alaska. Now she's back in New York at SUNY Oneonta. And Lee, you have a project called the Leather Stocking Writing Project. Tell us about what is that?
Actually, the Leather Stocking Writing Project is run by Thor Gibbons, who is a wonderful professor here. And he and I teamed up along with some graduate students, Cassie, Carl, and Joe, and we created this workshop for teachers and students that we did this summer, and we're going to do more of it over the fall. The idea is that we held a gamification workshop using GameStar mechanic. So the students were able to build their own games, and the teachers built games for the students, but then both the students and teachers went into each other's workshops and critiqued the games that they were creating. And Vicki, it reminded me a lot of our Ed Gamify project and the rubric that we created for students and for teachers in, considering what a quality game is. So many of those concepts came out in these workshops.
Okay, so why do you call it the Leather Stocking Writing Project and you're making games? How are you pulling writing into this?
Well, Thor Gibbons, who runs the writing project, is just really into new media and new media expressions and forms of expression that go beyond the two-dimensional. So he looks at storytelling through these games. And that's an aspect that we're working on, is helping students to tell stories, and teachers to tell stories. And for those storylines to create a quality game, whether it's in math or it's in science, but they're using the writing and the story and creation of plot to go along with these games.
Cool. So are you using, anything like the hero's journey, or do you have a specific storytelling type method you encourage?
No. I think we just look at the leveling of engagement that needs to be encouraged when we create video games, and that we can't create just chocolate covered broccoli, as we said. We have to create games that are very engaging, or we can't expect our user to continue with that game. So the students get to understand that by creating an engaging game and then taking that idea and using design thinking and programming this game, they are gaining several skills. They're gaining a background in game theory and what it means to be a game designer, which is something that is a viable option for careers for these students. And also through the coding, they can move into STEM fields, or we can just integrate STEM with language arts and new media.
So you said game theory, so you're pulling in like Bartle's player types and all the different types of game mechanics?
That's correct. That's exactly what we're doing. And we're just teaching students about the different levels of the creation of games, what the game has to do, how it needs to move up in challenge, how it needs to be challenging but not frustrating. So we're teaching the students this, and then the teachers are seeing the way the students are reacting to it. And what's so exciting to me, Vicki, is that the students really pick up on this, and teachers wonder, well, can they really do this? I mean, they're in third grade. Could they do this fourth grade? And yes, they can. And it's amazing when the teacher sees it. I had a student, and she teaches in Brooklyn, and she used gaming in her class of special needs students. And she had one student who was constantly disengaged, but the minute she started talking to that student about game star mechanic and telling that student that she had to learn to do that for her graduate class, that student became very engaged, taught her how to play the game. She was so motivated. She then integrated that into her curriculum, and suddenly her non-readers are readers because of this same aspect that we built into Givercraft and Survivorcraft, that same aspect of, reading a book, telling the story through the game, or even argumentative writing and using that writing to guide a game. These things were amazing to her. They were learning the content, they were writing about their games, and that was something she had not been able to achieve with them.
Wow.
So yeah, it was really, really inspiring. What happened?
When you say students, you teach pre-service teachers, or you teach teachers actually in the classroom?
I teach teachers in the classroom. Okay. Yes.
And so then you're teaching them, and they're creating these games and using Game Star Mechanic, but then they're turning around and having their students in elementary and up use it also.
That's correct.
Do you find that most of your teachers feel like they can use this in their classroom, or are they resistant?
I think most feel that way. I think there are some who are not gamers and they feel they should be gamers to be able to use this. But the reality is, as we found, if you let the students work with this and take a design thinking approach to it and make it hard fun, then suddenly the students are reacting really well. But the resistance I see is only from the maybe 20% of the students who don't like games, who aren't gamers, and who have negative connotations for games, that they really don't think this is going to enhance their curriculum. But I'm thrilled to have one student now looking at a thesis topic, which is using these games in his classroom by allowing the students to create through them.
I would wonder, though, if those students, when I say students, I mean the teachers that teach kids, if the reluctant ones are starting to kind of come around as they're listening to other teachers who have these breakthroughs. I mean, when you have a non-reader become a reader and you have a non-writer become a writer, that's a pretty big deal, isn't it?
It really is. And I think you're right. I think that by sharing these experiences with each other, which we did on a chat, which was called hashtag MM586. We had weekly chats and we talked about these results that they saw. And then we also blogged about them. And I think through that, teachers learned about the success of other teachers. And so it may be that as they encounter students who they may not be getting through to, they might wish to try this, and they have it in their toolbox. So that's a really nice thing that they've been exposed to it. We talked primarily about Game Star Mechanic because it is so easy to have students added to your account. The licenses are only $2 per student. And so even a teacher who doesn't have funding can easily get that for her classroom or his classroom. Buy the student licenses and use those.
I just think it's fantastic because you are encouraging teachers not to just sit and get a lecture or have a conversation. You're encouraging them to do something with it.
Absolutely. And we are working on creating more open experiences so that more of the world, more teachers could engage in this learning with us. And so we're starting that this semester with a class on making. And we're going to be focusing on integrating Arduino and Chibitronics and other coding for creation tools into the curriculum, because right now so many of them are sort of off to the side. They're after school, their summer activities, but there's so much promise in bringing this into the curriculum in the same way that games are motivating students. These concrete results they can see and the creativity that it unleashes will allow students to move into the careers of the future, those careers that we don't even know are there yet. So they're getting experience in creating, in coding, in manipulating concrete electronics. And we are doing that right now under the hashtag WeMake19. So anybody who would like could come in, they can contribute. We're going to have blogs. And so this will be our first open experience. Our chat will be Tuesday nights at 5:30 Eastern time. And the students are leading the chats, of course. And so they're bringing up things that are important to teachers as they talk about the things we're learning and the way we're manipulating electronics. And so I think, anybody, of course, is welcome to join in this. And if they create a blog with the hashtag WeCreate19, then we can connect with them. We can engage in a larger learning experience. Yes.
Awesome. So it's the leather stocking writing project as well as WeCreate19.
Yes.
So many different things that you can join in. Dr. Lee Graham is a great innovator and a collaborator because I've collaborated with her before. She understands how it's done. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Vicki. Such a pleasure.